Hello and welcome. Today's video will feature an incredibly intriguing vessel, so iconic it had to be added in 4 different iterations. I'm of course talking about the Project 68 class of cruisers, a powerful fusion of Cold War technology and trusted World War II design. This class of cruisers was so powerful that the mere mention of it struck fear into the hearts of mariners the world over. Vast in number, this class of ships would go on to spread Soviet power across the globe and beyond. At least that's what Joseph Stalin envisioned for them. Ultimately, his dreams of a global blue water navy would never be realized. Of the 30 planned, only a fraction were completed. If you would like to know more, check out my other videos on the class. Today I've been granted top-level exclusive access to the newest iteration, the Shcherbakov-class, which is one of the major event prizes for the Repair Factory event. Having played with her sisters extensively, I was a little bit skeptical about what she could offer. I played 10 games and she turned out to be much better than expected. Let me show you her features. As I said before guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Commander Tyrael. Now the main thing to note about the new ship is, in fact, she has really thick deck armor. 70mm of top deck armor compared to her sister the Mikhail Kutuzov having only 10mm of top deck armor, which means that she can, in theory, survive most destroyer shells at range over 7 kilometers and a lot of cruiser shells of 6 inches at about 8 to 10 kilometers. She's very safe. Now they don't protect the crew compartments themselves because the deck does split through the middle of the crew compartments, but if you stay at extreme range, your crew within the bowels of the ship are completely safe. I had engagements with Helenas at out to 13 kilometers where they simply could not kill me. They did not have the penetration to get through and kill the last of my crew that were down in the machinery rooms. They couldn't take out the turrets, they couldn't take out the barbettes, and so once I reached that magic number of about 20% crew, I was very safe. Now, obviously you are still a light cruiser and you're not going to stand up to 8-inch shells. They will still do significant damage to you, especially if they're armor piercing. But at this stage, this class of ship has the best armor piercing shells for ranged combat, and now we have a ship that will excel in that role. And so that's how I used her mainly. I was very fortunate in the games that I did run into battleships. They were my friends and they let me live. So I'm not going to say that she's going to be good against battleships because that won't be the case. But if you get a long range map, she can be very effective. Lo and behold, we have another long range map, which is perfect because the purpose of today's video is basically to show you the ship in action. Some raw, unedited good gameplay footage, goodness stuff. And just to show you my line of thinking when I play these maps, because a lot of people don't enjoy them, but I find that I can be pretty effective in them if everything goes to plan. So the first step is I have a look at the sea state. How are we looking on the water today? And it looks pretty calm. It's not going to be too rough, so this is very good for long range engagements. It is still open water, so it is still a bit bouncy, but it does get a lot worse. So second step will be to ensure that all of our allies are spawning in. See what the fleet composition looks like. That gives us a good idea of where the battle rating sits at. Will we see any dreadnoughts? Hope not, but we may do. I don't have any on my team at this stage, but that's okay. So we'll take the southern flank, and don't let that circle fool you. It's just there as a guide, okay? You can be effective anywhere on this map. Doesn't matter where you go as long as you're assisting the objective push. So the way the cap circle works is it captures if there's more of your team in there than the other. So as long as you're making sure to weed out enemies that are crossing into the capture zone, you can still be highly effective. You can play this like an open water map and use some good tactical play. And that, in this case, means going very wide. We're going to try and push extreme range and attack from an extreme flank. Most of the enemy team seems to be on the far stretches of the map too, so that really plays into today's strategy. Now, these long-range maps aren't generally very highly engaging, and I try to make them interesting as possible. So I'll think of something to make this video a little bit spicy, hopefully anyway. So we are now underway, we're at top speed. Sverdlovs do have a fairly good top speed of 61 kilometers an hour. They are a very heavy ship despite their appearance of 18,000 long tons, thereabouts. For comparison, a Helena is about 13,000 long tons, so there is a significant displacement difference between the light cruisers that you will face, and you are on the upper end of that. The closest contemporaries would be the Des Moines class, and even I think they're about the same displacement. Maybe the Des Moines a bit heavier, I can't remember right now. Despite that, this particular one, the Shcherbakov, is actually the same displacement as the Mikhail Kutuzov. So they handle fairly well. That's one of the benefits of the Sverdlovs, is they have very good handling in my opinion. And they have amazing velocity on their guns, 950 meters per second, which means that at long range, if we're fighting other light cruisers, we're going to have first strike capability with our salvos. It means he has less time to react if they decide to maneuver, and we have more time to react because it takes longer for his shells to get to us. We do have less guns than something like a Helena or a Brooklyn class. As you can see on the scope there, we have a Brooklyn, a Hipper, 2 Brooklyns and a Hipper. So like the rest of the Sverdlov class, the AP shells on this ship can penetrate the barbettes into the ready rack rooms of a Helena, a Brooklyn, a Cleveland, a Pittsburgh at less than 5 kilometers. They have a very good penetration value and they can just punch straight through. However, at range, you're going to have to take a different tack on that strategy. Basically, you have to make sure that you're hitting all the different crew compartments in the ship. Your shells have enough penetration to get through the anti-frag armor, and that's what you want. And you're going to hit the crew compartments from front to back. See, we've just hit one now. And so our aim is to hit all of those crew compartments and kill them all. Basically, that'll wipe out his crew. The Sverdlovs do have an amazing semi-armor piercing round, but I swear by the armor piercing. I will use semi-armor piercing. I did bring some with me for those cases where I feel like it will give me a benefit, but in most cases, armor piercing all the way, mate. So everything I've said about this ship, it relates to its role as a cruiser killer. I think that's where it sits in the niche. I mean, it certainly can do work to dreadnoughts and battleships with its shells. Like, they were notoriously steal kills from you. It'll always be a Zelensnikov or a other Russian cruiser that's stealing your kills. Like, you'll put 3,000 rounds into someone, and a Zelensnikov will go yoink, bink, thank you very much. So you may have noticed that by going wide, no one's paying attention to me at this stage. So we're certainly just taking our time and having a chat. You can see on the damage model that I've worked my way towards the rear of the ship now. I've taken out the front compartments, I've taken out his guns, and I've taken about 2/3 of the crew out. It's certainly possible to one-tap these cruisers, but I like to be methodical and I prefer to aim high above the waterline and take out all of the superstructure and that sort of thing. There are numerous ways to go about it, and you will find your preferred one. Some ships are notoriously strong, like this thing. These things are just immune to everything. So you have to be methodical when you dissect them. We've had success. We've got one more crew compartment. He's getting within the range now that I can actually get through his barbettes and do some significant damage. But this guy's been stubborn, I shall say that. And that's half the problem. with these things. If you're not in a survivable ship and then they turn to actually fight you at this range, they just have insane shells per minute. They're a favorite and also most hated. And this is where a lot of players lose interest because they're just sick of getting gunned to death by so many 6-inch shells. It seems like, what can you do? We've managed to take this guy out, so we're moving our attention to the Admiral Hipper class, or the Prince Eugen in this case. Premium, red turret, Prince Eugen. Now, these guys can either go splat in one hit, or it can take a while to hit them too. I'm going to be methodical, because like I said, this guy is not paying attention either. And I wonder why that might be. So we just work our way down the sides of the ship. We have enough penetration to get through most of his armor. It takes a few good hits to get through the bunkers on the side, the torpedo defense, as well as the belt and the secondary armor belt that the Hipper has. The turtleback armor design is quite strong at close range. And look, we have our first antagonizers. We have two Helenas, or two Brooklyn classes, that appear to be dialing us in really, really heavily. Okay, so now we need to go to action stations. We've taken major hits here. We've got a fire on board. A turret is down for the count. I'm going to try and range them in and try and get some solid hits in. We've lost a fair bit of speed there in our maneuvers and hitting the full stop, just to throw those shell leads off. And that has given us about 10 seconds worth of reprieve before their rangefinders come back online. So we now are turning away from this engagement, trying to maximize our belt armor, which is only 100 millimeters. 11 kilometers is significant enough to stop those shells, but we will take significant superstructure damage if they continue to hit us like they are. So again, we are turning away from the engagement. Hard starboard turn to try and increase our closure rate away from these enemies. I've found that a lot of players, and I think these guys are actually players, are not very good at a running engagement in which they're chasing an enemy ship that is running away. It seems to be much harder to lead away than it is lead against. So we are down to 62% crew. This is not good, but we have matched that damage. And see, this is where the strength of my shells is coming in. I'm still doing that exact same damage that I was doing to the other Helena that I was fighting before, but at a much larger range. I'll try and keep the commentary up here while I concentrate on this lead here. You'll notice that I'm extending the lead over the enemy ship's range on the rangefinder there by about 300 meters. And that's because I think that this ship is stationary that I'm fighting. I think they're both stationary or very slow, and I'm heading away. So I'm countering for my speed only. And it seems to be paying off. We've got him down to 33%, 27. Myself, I'm down to 50% crew. Taking care not to repair anything except flooding or fires if they do catch. But my violent maneuvers here, I'm doing a zigzag fashion. Hard port turn, hard starboard turn after about 15 seconds or so. And the reason I'm doing that is because their rangefinder update time is 10 seconds. So I need to make an adjustment to my heading, course, or speed, or more than one, every 10 seconds to try and fight off these barrages. Initially I was taking some fairly heavy hits, but I seem to be throwing them off fairly well. So they've adjusted to my course stop there. So we hit flank ahead. The ships do have fairly good acceleration, so that will give me another 10 seconds or so before they readjust their lead. This guy is down to 10%. And so here we are in a 2v1 engagement. There's 30 guns versus our 12 and we are coming out, I would say, on par. We've got one Helena almost down, or one Brooklyn almost down, and we are down to 37% crew. So I'm very happy with the trade here, if we're perfectly honest. But not to get cocky, we'll turn away hard starboard turn again. Adjusting that closure rate, coming into them and then away from them. So we're changing our lateral distance as well as our horizontal distance. And this guy is sinking. We'll fire in a few more rounds just to make sure. And we've taken down our first Cleveland class, that was. I misidentified the amount of turrets, so there's not 30 guns against us. But 27 guns is still a thing. Got another one here crossing our bow in a moment, but he seems to be heading away from the battle, so we'll throw him some happies. And we'll get underway again. We've been sitting still a little bit too long. Those shells are still hitting in front of the bow. Just keeping an eye on the scoreboard here to see what my team composition is like. At the moment, we are in the lead. We are pushing the advantage. I have been focused on this group here, and I haven't really been watching what's going on in the battle. Keeping the lead over the ship again, because I am still heading away from the capture zone. And I'm trying to hit those crew compartments. I'm not trying to hit waterline shots in this engagement at all. So anything that crosses over him, if it doesn't hit the hull, it'll hit his superstructure and possibly go through his deck armor, especially at this range. But we do have a fire on board. We are down to 21% crew, so this is the magic number that I was talking about now. As long as I don't repair my secondaries and I just manage fires and flooding, I should be relatively safe. As long as no 8-inch cruisers get involved in a fight with me. Speak of the devil, crossing my scope there, following our same course. But that Des Moines did manage to explode between us and my current target. This second American light cruiser has taken 59% crew remaining. We are still heading away from his course, and all of his shells are falling short. So that's not too bad at all. I'm pretty happy with this result. But it appears we have another instigator. What have we got here? It looks to be Russian light cruiser. Now he is a priority target because, as I said, they have amazing armor-piercing shells, and he will get through our deck armor at this range, I believe. I'm not willing to put it up to chance, so we're now fighting this fellow over here. Well, we still have that Brooklyn class light cruiser fighting us off to our 3 o'clock or so. Now, we're really fighting over the shoulder in this engagement, and the Sverdlov is pretty good at doing that. It has decent traverse angles on its turrets, so you can fight over the beam of the ship. That's actually one of my favorite tactics in a larger map engagement, is use the speed of your cruiser to try and kite out the enemy as far as you can and shoot over your shoulder. If you can't quite get the angles, turn in towards the enemy to take your shot, then turn away again, just to keep that maximum angle. Ships that tactic work really well in are ships like the Alaska class. In an open water map, if you can fire over the shoulder, you'll do pretty good. So this Russian light cruiser is down to 60%. The American light cruiser that engaged us before has decided to ignore us, I think. We are a long way from the battle, but that's okay, because we are doing our fair share of the damage. I don't see any harm in using the space provided to keep myself alive. As long as I'm staying active in the battle, then I'm doing my part. I had some solid hits. I'm not sure if they were mine because my allies are engaged with this light cruiser, but it's significant enough for him to forget about us for the time being. So we're going to turn a hard port, come back towards the engagement zone. I'm still not going to repair that damage. Alright, we have another shot out on us. Target at 8 kilometers. Another American light cruiser. New target or an old one, I can't quite tell. He's a fresh cruiser, he's got 90% crew, so... Ooh, 66% left. I'm not sure if they were my hits. Someone is getting some decent bow-in shots on him. But his stern crew compartments are down, so... Our team is still pushing hard on the cap. We do have the numbers here. Anyone that plays at this battle rating during normal times of the year will tell you that most of the players are 1 death leavers. So my assessment about the ship having worse aircraft capability than the Mikhail Kutuzov were unfounded, really, because you're rarely going to see aircraft at this battle rating. And if you do, then you've got the tools to deal with it either way. The Mikhail Kutuzov will really come into its own if we ever get proper CWIS functionality. But at this stage, she's just more of a gimmick for lots of Burt. And there you go, as Lenshnikov has taken that Helena down for us. Got a guy doing circle work over in the background there, on his way to France. We are taking more shells. This target is at 15.5 kilometers. That's a long way away. Will we bother to engage him? I think I'll take a pot shot. Just to range him in. I'll shoot over his head. I'm not sure whether he's heading towards us or away. That is very distant. So another victory in the bag. Fairly uneventful match, but it gives you an example of what the ship's capable of. Everything I've said about it is in relation to its role as a cruiser killer and fighting other light cruisers and other heavy cruisers. I'm not suggesting that you sit out the back of the map every single match or run away as far as you can and use that as a tactic, because I do not want to see that, and if you do it, I'll find you. I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. Until next time, leave a like, make sure you're subscribed, tell me your favorite stuff about the video, and I'll see you next time. Cmdr, out.